professionals in social work need to deal with individuals in different contexts. This requires a kind of sensitivity with the needs, desires, expectations, and thoughts of people at individual level, group level, and community level. This situation creates a complex situation which renders the job of a social worker very complicated. It is complicated in the sense that the human interaction which takes place between the social worker and the other individual or group or community is directed towards achieving certain goal. The goal may deal with immediate problems, and one has to help getting the necessary resources as well as competencies so that the goal is achieved. To this end, a student who is pursuing studies in social work has to understand the cognitive and intellectual processes which organize people's activities. But that is not enough. One has to be very sensitive to the context. In particular, Indian society, which is collectivist, requires that meaning is situated in a context. So when you go to talk to someone, you have to be cognizant about the circumstances, how others are responding to that situation is also very critical. It is also important to understand that the life which occurs in community is organized within the framework of governmental social policy, the various kinds of legal contexts and provisions, as well as the local situation. So, a student in the field of social work has to be one who is careful and who is aware, who is ready to learn from contemporary reality and also connect with the tradition, the values, the system within which people live. I think there is tremendous need in society to have assistance in a number of domains in terms of technological development as well as the changing scenario in terms of governmental provisions to get different kinds of support. A kind of literacy is required which demands careful attention to the flow of information. I am sure that the students of social work will be allowed, will relate to others, and will also try to achieve the goal of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. I am sure that the kind of changes which are being thought about in the program of studies are going to contribute to prepare students to meet the demands of society in 21st century. The task at the disposal of a professional in the field of social work requires that the person must have a desire to become an entrepreneur. Today's world is one where there are different challenges. The challenges come from changing economic situation. Challenges also come before us when we look at the aspirations of the people as well as the kind of constraints and enablers which are present in our environment. As an entrepreneur, a student of social work has to analyze his or her capacity, has to build various kinds of competencies which relate to the changing circumstances and monitoring different processes in the environment. It is very clear that the changes which are taking place are at very fast rate. The changes are also related to different domains. I want to emphasize the point that something which happens in one domain of life, for example, in economic domain, will not be limited to only economic domain. It will also influence the social, personal, emotional, as well as intellectual functioning of the individual. So, it is important to recognize the linkages across different domains. As an entrepreneur, it is important to learn from the kind of change. Another important connected issue is that one has to be ready to appreciate the kind of expectations which people have. With the flow of information through social media as well as electronic media and the print media, there is a continuous inflow of information, and that renders mindset very dynamic, flexible, and people try to move from one kind of goal to another kind of goal. This is very significant part of contemporary life, and one has to relate to it, one has to appreciate this kind of phenomenon if one wants to do something in this fast changing situation. It is very important to be aware of this kind of change and accept the reality. When I use the word accept the reality, it requires a flexible mindset where you are able to accommodate new ideas, new practices, new pieces of information and try to build on those developments. It is very important that a person tries to connect with the changes. If you stick to one set of rules, one set of practices which are quite old, which do not work in the current scenario, you will be in trouble. It requires that one should be updated, and one should try to update himself or herself continuously in the changing circumstances. I am sure that with a readiness to connect with immediate environment and flow of information and being aware of the circumstances, one is able to cope with the changing demands of situation. As a person working in the field of social work, this kind of preparedness is a must, and this will help to understand the situation and use the skill appropriately.